How old money families build wealth across generations. There is a question that separates old money from new money, and it is not about how much you have. It is about how long it lasts. Most wealth disappears within 3 generations. The numbers are well documented. 70% of affluent families lose their fortune by the 2nd generation, 90% by the 3rd. This is not a new phenomenon. It has been observed across cultures, across centuries. The saying, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, exists in nearly every language on earth. And yet, certain families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Wallenbergs, the Agnellis, have maintained and grown their wealth across 5, 6, even 7 generations. They have survived revolutions, world wars, financial collapses, and the natural entropy that destroys most fortunes. How? What do they know that the rest do not?
The answer begins with structure, specifically the family office. A family office is a private organization built to manage the financial affairs of a single ultra-wealthy family. It is not a bank. It is not an advisory firm hired by the hour. It is an institution the family owns outright, with its own staff, its own investment strategy, its own legal framework. The Rockefeller Family Office was established in 1882. It still operates today. It manages billions across dozens of family members spanning 6 generations. Every investment decision, every trust disbursement, every philanthropic initiative flows through this single structure. Why does this matter? Because a family office creates institutional memory. It ensures that the principles guiding wealth management do not change with each generation's whims. The family may evolve. The strategy endures. Most newly wealthy families skip this step entirely. They hire separate advisors, attorneys, accountants, all operating independently, often with conflicting incentives. There is no central nervous system, no continuity. When the patriarch dies, the knowledge dies with him. Old money families understood centuries ago that wealth preservation is an organizational problem, not merely a financial one.
The second pillar is trust structures. Not trust as in confidence, trust as in legal entity. Old money families use irrevocable trusts, dynasty trusts, and spendthrift trusts to create layers of protection around their assets. Each serves a different purpose, but together they form an almost impenetrable shield. An irrevocable trust removes assets from the family's taxable estate permanently. Once funded, neither the grantor nor any single beneficiary can unilaterally access or redirect the funds. This is by design. It protects the wealth from poor decisions, creditors, divorce settlements, and lawsuits. A dynasty trust is built to last. In some jurisdictions, it can persist for 1,000 years. It passes wealth from generation to generation without triggering estate taxes at each transfer. The compounding effect over decades is extraordinary. And the spendthrift trust adds a critical behavioral guardrail. It prevents beneficiaries from pledging trust assets as collateral or spending beyond a set allowance. If an heir develops a gambling problem or faces a lawsuit, the trust assets remain untouchable. This is not about being controlling. It is about understanding human nature. Even the most disciplined family will produce, across enough generations, someone who is reckless, someone who is naive, someone who marries poorly. Trust structures ensure that one weak link cannot destroy what took centuries to build.
But structure alone is insufficient. The third pillar, and perhaps the most important, is mindset. Specifically, what old money families call the stewardship mindset. New money thinks in terms of ownership. I earned this. It is mine. I will spend it as I please. Old money thinks in terms of stewardship. This wealth was entrusted to me by those who came before. My duty is to preserve and grow it for those who come after. I am a custodian, not an owner. This single mental shift changes everything. It changes how you spend, how you invest, how you raise your children, and how you define success. The Rothschild family codified this philosophy in the 18th century. Meyer Amschel Rothschild reportedly told his 5 sons, Concordia, Integritas, Industria, Harmony, Integrity, Industry. The family motto was not about accumulation. It was about conduct. When you see yourself as a steward, extravagance becomes distasteful, not because you cannot afford it, but because it violates the principle. Every unnecessary expenditure is a betrayal of the generations who built what you inherited and the generations who will depend on what you leave behind. This is why true old money families are often invisible. They do not broadcast their wealth. They do not collect status symbols. They live well, but within the boundaries of purpose rather than display.
The 4th pillar is education and values transmission. Old money families do not leave wealth transfer to chance or to lawyers. They actively teach each generation how to think about money, responsibility, and legacy. The Rockefeller family holds annual family meetings where all members, including children as young as 12, participate in discussions about philanthropy, investment philosophy, and family governance. They publish internal documents outlining the family's values and expectations. They assign mentors within the family to guide younger members. This is not casual dinner conversation. It is a formal, structured program of intergenerational education. Some families create what they call a family constitution, a written document that defines the family's mission, governance structure, and rules for accessing wealth. The goal is not to produce identical people. It is to produce informed people, people who understand the weight of what they carry, people who can make intelligent decisions because they were prepared, not because they stumbled into wisdom through painful experience. The families that fail at this, the ones who lose everything by the 3rd generation, almost always share the same mistake. They transferred the money, but not the knowledge. They gave their children access without context, privilege without preparation. Let us look at a case study that illustrates all 4 pillars working together. The Rockefeller family. John D. Rockefeller built Standard Oil into the most profitable enterprise in American history. At his peak, his wealth was equivalent to roughly $400 billion in today's money. He could have simply spent it. Instead, he built a system. He established family trusts that would shelter the wealth for generations. He created a family office that would manage it with institutional discipline. He instilled in his son, John Jr., a philosophy of stewardship and philanthropy that John Jr. then passed to his own children. Today, the Rockefeller family fortune is estimated at $11 billion, distributed across nearly 200 family members. By raw numbers, each individual has less than the founder. But the family as a whole has maintained extraordinary influence and wealth for over a century and a half. They achieved this not through any single brilliant investment. They achieved it through structure, discipline, education, and an unbroken chain of stewardship. So what can you take from this, even if you are not a Rockefeller? First, begin thinking in generations, not just years. Every financial decision you make either builds or erodes what comes next. Second, create structure early. A trust does not require billions. Even modest wealth benefits from proper legal protection and clear succession planning. Third, educate the people who will inherit from you, not just about money, about values, about discipline, about the difference between owning and stewarding. And finally, write it down. Your philosophy, your principles, your expectations. The families that endure are the ones that codify their wisdom rather than assuming it will be absorbed by osmosis. Old money is not about being born into wealth.
It is about building systems that outlast any single lifetime. That is the real inheritance. Subscribe for more on the principles that separate generational wealth from temporary fortune. We publish every week, Timeless Wisdom for the Modern Gentleman.